Welcome to the Dr. Hockey Podcast. I am Dr. Jay Calvert, and I am hoping at some point that my co-host, Dr. Jason Berkeley, will join us because we have a guest today from the Colorado Avalanche family, Meghan Angley, who is from DNVR's color commentary team. I guess, is that how you would say it, Meghan?
I wear a lot of hats. I would say beat reporter, analyst. I like color commentary. That's awesome.
Yeah, you kind of I've seen you on in the games because I watch the Avalanche a lot. I'm a huge Nathan MacKinnon fan, and so I've seen you kind of reporting from the benches and kind of all over the place. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's been an awesome time. I started actually about 2 seasons ago. My first full season was the Cup year, so it was a great time to become a full-time beat reporter covering this Avalanche group, just because a lot has happened in that time. But I've been following them just from a fan, aspiring journalist perspective for over a decade now. So I've seen them through a pretty difficult period of hockey. I've watched this rebuild unfold over the span of many, many years. And of course, then the Jared Bednar era of hockey was ushered into Colorado, and things weren't immediately great for them. But if you stuck around, things have started to look a lot better. They're in a really awesome window for people to be paying attention. And I think they're commanding league-wide attention.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now, they are definitely a Cup contender this year for sure. I mean, they've got all kinds of firepower there, and the interesting thing about the Avalanche to me, and I went to game 2 of the Cup series where they won the Cup over Tampa Bay. When things are clicking and are working for this team, they're unbeatable. They have so much, and they have such high quality of the so much that I think that they have a lot of what teams want. The chemistry they have, just between Makar and MacKinnon and Rantanen, you're up against it if you're the visiting team. That's for sure.
To hear from the new additions too, something of a culture shock that they experience when they walk into the Avs locker room and experience that atmosphere for the first time, it's a huge cultural shift for players that are not familiar with it. The demands that are made and asked of you to play for the Colorado Avalanche are really high. They're really hard to meet, and there's a lot that's expected of you to stay in Colorado, and that's reinforced by the leadership group. The likes of MacKinnon lead by example, and there's no better resource to tap into than Nathan MacKinnon. He's at the height of his career. He takes great care of himself, and he's obviously highly skilled.
Yeah, he's just a raging bull of a hockey player. There's no other way to put it. He's so powerful and so skilled, and skates as well as anybody in the league. I love watching the guy play, but when he really gets the team moving, and it's all of them. The synergy is amazing. What's been like, as the observer of all this, what's been the consistent theme through their wins and their season that has given them the ability to wind up where they are in the standings now?
It's their relentless pursuit of the win. And it comes from a room full of guys still made up of that 2022 team. They've crossed the finish line. They know what it takes to win. There's a lot of adversity that got them to that cup, even though it seemed like a pretty seamless cup run in the 2022 year. They missed some players. Some players went down in that playoff series. And then, of course, their title defense season was not what they expected it to be. And that core group of about 11 players that are still on this team from that cup run, they set an example for what is expected of this team. And it has carried them through some of the tough stretches of hockey they've experienced even this year. Losing Sam Girard and Val Nichushkin to the player assistance program did pose challenges. Not having Landeskog and knowing that with certainty at the beginning of this year posed challenges. And what I credit to is from the front office down to the players, there's a clear idea of the identity of this team. It's something that I think the foundation has been laid wonderfully by Jared Bednar, but it's bigger than him. It's everybody in the Avs front office, and it's everybody that's in that room that's leaned on as a leader, to include MacKinnon, Makar, but Devon Taves, Josh Manson, Andrew Cogliano. There's a lot of leaders in that room, and the binding quality that they all have is that they have won, and they've won together. And it's been infectious for the new players that have come to this group, that Colorado's front office and their pro scouting staff picked some really wonderful players in the offseason and through this deadline that fit the cultural identity for Colorado as well as the stylistic fit. The speed at which Colorado likes to play is difficult for just anybody to fit into. And so in targeting a player like Casey Middlestat, it's not just a matter of can he be a difference maker, playmaking 2C, but also does he have the pace? Does he have the motor? He doesn't have to be the best skater, but he needs to have the pace. And that's the difference between Ryan Johansson not working out as second line center in Colorado and Casey Middlestat being the ideal target that they're willing to part ways with Bowen Byram for. It's this clear vision that they don't waver from, even in the face of adversity, which they've experienced at parts of the season. Like even Cale Makar doesn't start the year healthy, and they have to work around that. Same with Josh Manson, doesn't start the year healthy. There's just been little things along the way that they've had to work through, and I think they're in the best spot that they've been all season.
Yeah, I mean those injuries, as you know, when you're coming into playoff season here, injuries and problems with your goaltending can really kill the buzz of a team like this. And obviously the Landeskog issue has been like they've just had to overcome that, period, end of story, and they have. But the role players on this team right now, and believe me, I watched Josh Manson play a ton of games in his early part of his career in Anaheim. The guy is just he's really a major league amazing defenseman that you can rely on. Nobody likes going down the wing on his side. It's just not fun for them. They're gonna really hit a wall and have to take some pain. So, I mean, I see that those injuries that the Avs started with have more or less resolved, but you worry as they get into the games number 68, 69, 70, like do those injuries start to rear their heads again, and can it really cap off a problem for the teams like the Avalanche on the way into the playoffs? How is the team doing now in that respect? Do you think the guys are healthy? Are they feeling good? Are they just gotta like not get hurt on the way into the first round? What's the secret at this point?
Well, that's definitely a tricky variable. But as far as their current state of health, it's very good. This is the most complete I've seen this season. Like the outstanding injury, of course, to Landeskog remains there. The other is a depth piece they were hoping to see in an NHL game sooner in Nikolai Kovalenko, who is still a couple weeks out and will probably do a conditioning stint in the American League before we actually see him in the NHL, which is a little bit of a shame, but that was also just a depth piece that probably meant Andrew Cogliano might sit out some games. So when that's the problem that the Avs might face when their lineup is totally fully healthy, that is a pretty good state of health then. Because other than that, and talking to the guys who have started the year with injury trouble, everyone reports that they're fully healthy. They're getting in games. They do look good. And so it's a really good health outlook, fingers crossed, for the Avs right now.
Yeah, I mean that it's Cogliano, also another guy I've got a lot of experience with from the Ducks. He just is he's a gamer in the playoffs. That guy, he raises the bar when it comes to playoff time. I don't know what that is, but he'll show up and he'll be a good part of the team to make some things happen. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's very creative. He's not as fast as he probably was in the old days, but he makes up for it in a big way with his hockey IQ and knowing what's going to happen long before it does. He's a real he's just a playoff elevator.
He's one of my favorites just because of, well, for a few reasons, but the leadership aspect that he brings to the group.
Absolutely.
But as you talk about, at his age, he might not be at the peak of his career and the goal scorer that he once was, but alongside Nathan MacKinnon, nobody takes better care of themselves when it comes to their conditioning, quite like Andrew Cogliano. He also sets a very good example and high bar for how he takes care of himself. And it's why he is able to still keep up with the Avs in the way that they like to play. And the effort is what makes him such a reliable player that Bednar can use in a variety of situations with a lot of trust. And he's also a big reason for the success that the penalty kill has had this year. It was sort of a shared accountability that Logan O'Connor and Andrew Cogliano took on as the defensive forwards on that unit. And he is then the next in line to teach that system to some of these newcomers that have come in and are also PKers that are now on this stretch here where the penalty kill has never looked better. So he's a big part of that as well.
Yeah, the penalty kill has not always been the strongest for the Avalanche. That's something that, I think has elevated their game pretty significantly, because even the year that they won the cup, their PK was, I think it wasn't so hot. They sort of had the attitude like, well, we'll just score more goals than they do, and whatever, they get a penalty shot, a penalty goal here every once in a while, it's fine, power play. But they definitely don't have that problem now, and obviously the power play for the Avs it's awesome. I mean, it's just like they are in the hunt, and they're everybody has their role. They know what they're doing. It's like watching surgery for me, because it really is surgical and I do a lot of plastic surgery over here, and that is, watching these guys put that together is so fun. And it's probably very, very discouraging for their opponent.
It's also interesting to look at the personnel that makes up even their second unit.
Yeah.
It's players that on any other NHL team would be their first power play unit. In a world where to start the season, at least Val Nichushkin was on PP2, was quite unbelievable, but it's just because they had so many options of talented, skilled players. Now I think he's resumed his rightful position on PP1, but there's a lot of difficult decisions to make when you've got net front guys like Nichushkin, who is this Hulk presence, and Artturi Lehkonen, who is also not afraid to get physical and get in there. He's sort of like a honey badger in that respect. And so you have a lot of options to choose from for their power play. And then, of course, the talent at the top, the unmovable objects that are Rantanen and MacKinnon and Makar, make it so dangerous because there is an aspect of unpredictability too, especially with Mikko Rantanen. It's something that I really admire about him. There's a little bit of deception to his game and his playmaking ability and vision, complemented by Jonathan and Drouin there, just elevate Nathan MacKinnon's ability to capitalize on the power play.
Yeah, well, they kind of stuck it to the Pens the other night, or in the other afternoon, I guess. That was on, I guess it was yesterday, wasn't it? They were down 4-0 to Nathan MacKinnon's mentor, Sidney Crosby, and my daughters are massive hockey fans, and they're like, well, it looks like the Penguins might actually win a game, because I spent 7 years in Pittsburgh, so I'm a bit of a fan. And I said, don't count this team out, and don't just look where the Pens are in the standings and look who's on the ice. And I think they're going to make something happen. And sure enough, they got the win. I think it was in a shootout. I didn't see the very end, but I knew that 4-0 against the Avalanche is not a comfortable lead. That's all I can tell you.
Isn't that marvelous too? And it ended up being an overtime
It
buzzer
was an OT.
beater.
Okay.
Jonathan
Yeah.
Drouin, of course, comes to Colorado. Perhaps, some people are saying, does he even have a place in the league anymore? Takes a league minimum contract. And now he is on his way to outprice himself of staying in Colorado because he's just playing so well. And of course, it is complemented by his former teammate, Nathan MacKinnon, from their time in major juniors together, winning a Memorial Cup. What they have been able to find there, I think, has also been special and has helped Nathan MacKinnon, because that is a player who gets him and can anticipate his reads, similar to Artturi Lehkonen. And that Pittsburgh game, I never count the Avs out, but Pittsburgh came with such a good game plan. And they needed to not necessarily reinvent their strategy, because their process is really good. They just had to dig pretty deep, keep their heads down, and get to work. And that's exactly what they did. Their depth stepped up first because their stars were being covered pretty aggressively man on man. Anytime MacKinnon's on the ice, they have his number. He's Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important then for the depth to step up. And that's where the deadline acquisitions really showed why the depth was a necessary piece for the Avs to get playoff ready, because when the time came, the Stars closed out that game, but they needed the depth to step up first, get them on the score sheet, and finally make it an interesting hockey game. And they did. And it goes back to that mindset that they don't want to lose, that they are a culture of winners. And it's really impressive to see it because you see the frustration boil over onto the ice, but you also know that there isn't an overwhelming sense of panic in that group. They're frustrated, but it's not because they don't believe they can win. They're not getting the results they want in the immediate, but they're going to take it 5 minutes at a time, and you should never count the Avs out.
Nope. And I said it. I was like, 4-0 is just not, it's not enough. They need to get more because this team just has way too much firepower and they got way too much drive. And man, they have wheels attached to their feet. They just are so fast. And that's gonna serve them well as they get into playoffs here. Who do you not want to see the Avs faced in the first round of this playoff? Like who's the team that you're like, that's our one problem team. Who is not their favorite opponent?
Um, for the first round, I feel like there's if the Avs win the Central and they get the Golden Knights, that would obviously not be ideal.
No, that's what I was going to say.
But but honestly, because of how neck and neck the Central battle is going to be, I'm really not sure of who their first round opponent is going to be this year. And if they're as healthy as they are right now and as complete as they are right now, there isn't anyone that I'm afraid of them facing in the first round.
Well, that's good. I think the Golden Knights have a little bit of a mental advantage though in terms of that matchup because it seems like the Golden Knights can foil their plans a lot of times. So I think that would be it'd be a great series, and I'm sure it would be hard fought, and you know it's going to go 7. But it's not. I think the Avs would prefer to have somebody else than the Golden Knights for the first round. Because
I
the
think that
downside of
that's
that
true.
too is like one of the teams that I think has a chance of winning the cups going out.
No, that's what's going to be interesting about how this kicks off here because for the Golden Knights to have fallen from grace as much as they did this season, you also look at how well constructed that team is and know that they're not missing the playoffs. They're going to be fine. They're going to be in, and they are designed to be a playoff team. So I want to pay my respects to the depth that Vegas has, and they have also been a team that has gotten across the finish line. And there is something about that that makes you battle tested and a little bit harder to play against. So they'll definitely always be a bit a thorn in my side, especially before the cup year. They were responsible for Colorado's exit. And I think that actually created a huge chip on their shoulders and led to the success that they had in that next season when they did win the cup. So I actually owe a little bit of thanks to the Vegas Golden Knights.
I think you're totally right. It's spot on because that series the year before they won the cup did not go well for the Avalanche. It did not go the way that they had planned, and I think if I remember correctly, there were some outstanding injuries and things that people were playing hurt, and it wasn't really shocking when it happened, but if it at the same time it was very discouraging, I'm sure for the Avs because they had a great season.
Yeah, that left some wounds, and that's something that really fuels this team. It's why I think they play well under pressure. Like when you make it into smaller situations, I think that's why they play well under pressure is because they're really uncomfortable with not getting their goals.
Well, now, Megan, tell our listeners how you got into, this incredible position that you're in. Is it, did you know somebody on the inside? Like, what did you have to do this? Because it's really cool what you do. I'm very jealous, and if I could, do that kind of job at some point, maybe when I retire, I'd be totally into it.
I owe a lot of thanks to people who were familiar with the work that I did when I was at university. I was studying journalism, and this is exactly what I wanted to be doing. And I was doing something with our athletics department. I went to the University of Denver. Good D1 team, go
Oh
Pios.
yeah.
I love that team. And it was technically my first job in hockey. And after that, I actually pursued a marketing path and didn't think that journalism would be possible for me. There was a lot of turnover and layoffs in the industry when I was leaving school. And so I worried that there just wasn't a job out there for me and it was best to pursue marketing. And so I did for the longest time. And out of the blue, someone on DNVR side had been referred to me by someone who was familiar with what I was doing while I was a student at DU. And they said, "Hey, do you like what you're doing? Would you like to be doing something else?" And they brought me on more so in an internship capacity to do prospect coverage. And because my path through hockey actually started with following a lot of AAA and college hockey, I loved the prospect coverage. So I got really invested in the American League. That's where I first met Greg Cronin. And I did a lot of prospect pieces from there. And eventually, after some of that work that they were impressed with, they offered me a full-time position. And so DNVR is a media outlet based out of here, but they're part of a bigger network called All City Sports, and they've opened up in a few other cities. And so they cover all sports. I just happened to get very lucky that someone on the DNVR Avs beat was basically referred to me, and this
Wow.
job became possible. So I wish there was a more streamlined path to recommend people to take to getting here, but I happened to just get very, very lucky.
Well, it's super awesome. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, covering these teams. We talk to a lot of the people that are close to the teams to get their take on it, and across the board, everyone loves their job working to report on hockey. I mean, we love it. I'm a plastic surgeon that takes time at, every week or so to talk about what's going on in the league, and it's a total blast. I mean, there's nothing like it when you're just the fan of the sport. There's nothing better than kind of like even like the old players. Like we had Timo Solani in, for a podcast one time. And when we finished, he goes, "Jay, I could have done that all day." He goes, "That was so fun." He's like, it's so fun to talk about the league and what's going on, and people love it. It's just really cool, and the players are great. So I'm very jealous, and congratulations to you. Where can our listeners get your stuff? Do you have a Twitter/X account? Do you have an Instagram? What's the easiest way for them to follow you?
Yeah, I do a lot of my live reporting from Twitter/X at Meg Angley, and all of my written articles are on thednvr.com.
Got it. That's helpful. I think everybody should follow you, and especially with the Avs are going to they're going to be beating up on somebody's team. So you need to know what's going on over there for sure. And you have real access. I mean, how do you like the game code? Tell me your kind of your schedule of when there's a game tonight. What do you do?
I go to morning skate in the morning, and they're on the ice for about 30 to 45 minutes. Then they open the locker room for media availability. So you get to go around the room and see which players are still in their stalls and willing to talk to you. Some players aren't always crazy about talking on morning skate, but they're very agreeable to talk on practice days. And then I'll stay. Jared Bednar addresses media also on game days. And I actually like to do the opposing room as well. So I'll go and cover their morning skate after and go in that room. I like to get insights from the feel of that locker room and their coach as well. And then I have a little bit of a break in the afternoon, head to the arena about an hour and a half before the game starts. Same thing, go in the locker room afterwards, do interviews, coach, and then get to writing, transcribe some of that interview so that people get to feel a little bit closer to being inside that locker room, because it is a privilege to be able to go in there and ask questions. And it's one that I take very seriously and want to do right by others with as well. So I try to make the access that I do get as transparent as possible. And when they're home, like they are right now, there's usually some practice days sprinkled in. So very similarly, I'll just go to their practice facility. I love those days because they're usually able to talk a little bit more than they would on morning skate. And same for their coach. Jared Bednar is a fantastic coach, by the way. He is
Absolutely.
a hockey head. He loves talking about hockey. He loves breaking down the game to the smallest of details. And if he's got the time, which he often makes time for, he will give you very detailed answers. It's not something that every coach does because they're not obligated to, but he takes the time to do it. And it's something that the media here in Colorado really appreciates about him.
Well, that is awesome. What a great way to experience the game and to be able to report on it and be the conduit to the fans. So I congratulate you, and it's amazing, and keep it up. That's for sure. And you'll probably have a lot more to this season to go, which is very
I hope
cool.
so. Yeah, I'm not ready to stop, so I'm ready to dedicate my summer to this.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, hopefully that'd be great. And I know that my gals my two daughters will definitely want to come out and see a game for sure. If they make it, even they'll come for the playoffs, the cup, whatever, but they love playoff atmosphere. So it's really fun. I'm very proud of their fandom
Yes,
of the game. It's awesome.
they're smart girls. You're raising them well.
Absolutely. They have no choice. That's how it goes around our house. It's hockey. They're like, "Oh, do you want to watch the NBA?" I'm like, "What is that?" I no, I don't really need to do that. And speaking of DU, Troy Terry is one of the guys that we see a lot here. So he was from your alma mater.
Fantastic guy. We were actually in school at the same time. I didn't know him terribly well, but had a lot of mutual friends. Great guy, and someone that I think has a lot of skill. In an ideal world, there would be some version where he could come and play in Colorado, but he is one of the best stick handlers I've ever seen play the game, and Anaheim's very lucky to have him.
Insane. He pulled a move last night that just I sit on the glass for the games, and it just this friend of mine sits next to me, and we saw him do something. Both like our jaws just dropped. I was like, "Did you see that?" He just literally split through the Tampa D, and there were three. It was 1-on-3, and he winds up on the other side of him taking a shot on Vasilevsky, who of course is the size of a walrus, and stopped the
Yeah.
shot. But he's really got the moves. He's amazing. So I'm glad that you were in school with him. That's kind of cool.
And Trevor Moore on LA. Not sure if you're big LA people over there,
Yeah,
but
for
another
sure.
Ohio that I am rooting for in the California hockey system.
Oh yeah, Trevor Moore is a Thousand Oaks kid. Are you kidding me? Yeah, and he's awesome. He's great, and he's a very nice kid.
That's awesome.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming on with us. And I'm sorry we didn't get the Jason Berkeley version, because all we would have heard about is how the Red Wings are forever ruined by the Colorado Avalanche. Every podcast we do turns into something about the Wings and the Avs, and it would have been really enjoyable, but he didn't make it. So tough on Jason, and thank you to you. And let's hope that you get your Avalanche to the Cup, and let them do a repeat. Why not?
Sounds like a good plan to me. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it.